Think we're here. We are.
Hello, welcome to another debrief. Here with SiegeGG with myself, mzo and Helbee. Here to just talk about the previous week, kind of recap what went on, what went down, what's cool, what's interesting.
Yeah, I think overall it was a pretty boring week. Not much happened.
Not sure if there's sarcasm there. It was definitely an interesting week for Group B's at least. That's for sure.
Yeah, on the EU it was fun, but NA, I don't think we've had any surprise on that side.
Well, I mean, I think the surprise was CLG just getting wrecked.
Yeah.
Super hard. Like, interestingly enough, the whole like, we'll put England on fragging roll goes -6. Just gets stomped. Like that was, I don't know if that was a move out of desperation or what, but clearly did not work at all.
Well, they need to figure something out because right now it's just there's something that's not working well for them, and they can't seem to put the finger on it for some reason. They've been struggling for quite a while now. It's been a couple but a couple match, especially with the Invitational where they didn't get that far.
I would have thought after Invitational they would have practiced a little harder, and maybe they did. I don't know exactly what they did, but the change-ups they made just definitely did not work. Yeah. I mean, not everyone saw the end of that match as the cut out and you had to watch it in the VOD, but that was a pretty intense one. And I mean, Rogue obviously though have been getting stronger. They did change up Avian for Geo, and Geo didn't overperform, but if you look at Geo's stats, he had the same KD as the top player on CLG, and he was the bottom player on Rogue in terms of stats. So it's just like, wow, like they were really doing bad on CLG. So even Geo, like potatoing tons of shots, still was better than they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that Rogue is still performing pretty well, even though they just switched the player. I mean, it's fair to assume they practiced with him before the announcement came in anyway. But they've been doing well. I mean, next game is against SK, and that's going to be an interesting one. It's on April the 2nd, though.
SK performed pretty well, I think.
Yeah, dude, Pojo the first couple rounds.
Pojo, yeah, that was his big debut, I would say, in terms of like really showing up. Like that was a good game for him.
Yeah, that was good. Also seeing a little bit of Mint on Blitz, that was doing a good job. It was fun. It was a fun game for sure. One that I enjoyed. Even though it was a 2-0, I'd assume Mouse would have performed a little bit better than that, but overall, they gave a pretty good fight.
Yeah, they didn't perform too bad, but it was definitely SK winning that. I mean, a 2-0 obviously doesn't necessarily tell you like the individual score lines and like how close rounds were.
Doesn't tell you.
Pojo definitely had to clutch some of those out.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the first one, just to start with, that was a pretty big clutch. It definitely set the tone of the game. Yeah, definitely set the tone of the game. It was an interesting one, but I think the biggest like upset was on EU this week.
The one up Ents, I'm assuming you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I did not see that coming.
Wilkie seemed pretty confident too, and it's interesting going into that because at the Invitational, talking to Wilkie, he was excited about the season because he was finally going to be able to quit his full-time job and get enough from I think his org to be able to cover his expenses and be able to practice full-time. And he was bottom fragging hard. I mean, Wilkie being the IGL doesn't always have to frag, but he was definitely not performing up to his usual expectations, which was surprising given they had the time to practice. In theory, they didn't make any big change-ups. Uno they'd played with and he played well before. It just, I think Wilkie bottom fragging is generally going to be when they do bad. Like, it's just not good for them at all. And one up, we're playing with their coach as a sub, Lotso, and not that he wasn't the player before. But
that was the big surprise.
I mean, he was -6, so he didn't do great, but he did his job on support roles. He was playing stuff like Lion and Dokkaebi, where he could support his attacks without necessarily being the fragger.
Well, I mean, if you're the support, let's say you're Thermite, you don't get much kills, but if the wall is open every single round you need it to be open, I mean, the job is done. You don't need to get kills.
Well, that didn't stop Avian from getting dropped.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's probably other stuff like take in consideration, because sometimes it's just chemistry not meshing up as well as you think.
Maybe Ranger, he's in the chat, he could deal the dirt. But nonetheless,
But
I
a
think it
2-0
was.
like that was surprising. And I think
Yeah,
it's fair to imagine they'll do even better with KS.
I can only
So,
imagine because he's definitely been a strong force on there. But it's like the rest of the team has really kind of got their act together with some of the change-ups they made on the roster and the experience they got from invitationals
oh
and
yeah,
qualifiers.
that's big.
Seems to really paid up. Also, you have to keep in mind though, a big factor is One Up was ready for this meta, and Ents clearly was not. Like Ents
Yeah.
just was still not really into how to play this meta. And we had people like Hungry who were obviously into the Ying meta. Lots was just fine playing the Lion. So they were just much more ready for it. And they showed that. Obviously it paid off in terms of like, I mean, freaking obviously Hungry played Ying every time anyways.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know. It just shows like you got to adapt over time. You can't really be like, oh, we won Brazil, so like we've got it together. We just kind of messed up on, invitationals. We can change it back, but
Yeah,
damn.
well, adaptation is just gonna be a big factor the more we get in the next season. It's you're gonna have to be able to adapt mid-game and even before the game starts, because if you have a plan in mind and then the operators in which the plan relies on gets banned, well, you need plan B, plan C, plan D, and plan Z if you need it, because
Yeah,
it's going to be moving a lot more. It's going to be interesting, but now that players can actually play the game full time, well, at least more than a year ago anyway, I think we're going to see great quality of games the more we go in the next season. And with that in mind, it's kind of crazy that next week some teams are going to be out of the season already.
yeah, get knocked out. That's going to be unfortunate for them. There's quite a few good teams too. It's like some of them will get knocked out.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing a bigger gap this season in terms of the top teams versus some of the bottom ones than we used to. Like it used to be the case, like year one, top four was like just completely different league almost than bottom four. Whereas that had changed for a while, but in this current meta, like the people who can play to this are just miles ahead of the people who can't play to it. Like you see, just off of the ability to use Lion correctly,
Yeah.
is a big differentiator. Same with Blitz as well.
Or even shut him down properly, because we've seen a lot of strategy that relies on pure aggression more than before anyway. And I think the operator's pick kind of show it in some ways.
Yeah, the operator pick rate had a big change this week. I mean, some of it's due to a totally different set of teams playing, but I think some of it's due to the meta like still being figured out. I know we use the word meta too much on Pro League as well, and just I don't know. It's one of those things I don't know how else to describe it. Just the current climate, I guess. But it's definitely shifted this week, and that's like a lot of people kind of playing things differently. So, for example, looking at the infographic, which is out now, there's some interesting things on it, I think, overall in terms of like operator pick rates you're pointing out. So like Blitz went down a lot.
From Blitz, 50. That's good because it's annoying to see play. It's not compelling gameplay.
And then like Legion surprisingly down quite a bit. It might just be due to other operators being picked up in his stead. But going from 47 to 27, surprising, maybe people just aren't getting the value out of him they would hope. But I think that could also just be down to different teams playing. And then Blackbeard down as well, 20 to 1%. That's a pretty big drop.
That's harsh.
Just don't want to play Blackbeard, no. I guess. I mean, there's just other people to pick. Like right now, people are shifting around operator picks so much, but you got to keep in mind also, this is like there was teams, for example, that were like one up that were bringing a ton of Ying.
Yeah, I mean, it's also dependent on the maps that are being played too. We've seen a lot of bank.
Yeah, bank.
That's something we haven't seen in the previous season a whole lot, or at least not as much as we are this season anyway.
Yeah, it definitely shifted around. So like Oregon's just dead this week. Like I was saying on the broadcast, I think people are figuring out Oregon just wasn't working out that great in the current meta and just straight up skipping it. And moving to maps like Bank where they can roam a little bit better without having to worry as much about Lion, I think is the big thing is it's got a 52% defense win rate because the roaming works a little bit better, especially if you can shut down someone like Jackal that's usually trying to track you. You can't be as effective on stopping the roam as you can on something like Oregon, where there's a lot of cutoff points where you can cut off rotations and get a lot better map control. And Cafe, interestingly as well, though, has been the top pick.
Cafe is, it hasn't changed much. It's always the same thing. You go take red, you take piano, you move towards the bomb site. If it's up and if it's down, you slowly move down to get there. It's not a map that I like to watch, but playing it's kind of good, but it's better than seeing Oregon anyway. That is just stale at this point where you just pop Lion, you get a shield to push, and you pretty much have control of basement. So if basement is a big no-no against coordinated team.
I feel like Oregon will come back though later in the
Yeah,
season.
oh, probably, yeah.
Just figure it out
Definitely
again.
will. But it's good to see map like Bank Cafe and Coastline are being the top map picked, because it was getting annoying just to see Oregon over and over and over.
Yeah. What's interesting is the Coastline stats too. Now it was only played twice, so it's a small sample size.
Yeah, simple.
But it was hugely attack sided in terms of people just not being able to defend that penthouse and kitchen stuff like that. I mean, 13 attack wins versus 4 defense wins. That's hugely over on the attack side. So that's clearly not a map where things like roams are working out, as well as just being able to hold the site. Just people are able to push Hall of Fame and VIP a lot better. But we also saw some interesting holds in terms of trying to hold that off, just not working out at all. Because people have kind of figured it out, and I think people are relying too much on Penthouse now.
Probably, yeah. I mean, we've seen good strats on Kitchen on previous season, and I think people figured out Penthouse, and slowly getting a side that is harder and harder to hold, just because you can pretty much destroy everything from below. So you kind of need control from below, but then you can't completely give up the bomb site itself, because they can just hop in from the window or the hatch above.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, I think it's a bomb site that's going to be played a little bit less, but I don't think people are done just yet with it. I think what's most likely going to happen is we're going to see new strats or new way to hold it. I think people are going to work on that based off of the current meta.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I imagine again it's going to shift next week as teams are matching up against different teams, as teams take what they learned from their first week, because everyone's just had one match so far.
Yeah.
So like everyone's had a chance to kind of feel out what worked and what didn't. And I imagine that there will be shifts. I mean, the maps, I expect to see maybe more Bank, because it seems to be the most balanced one just off the 4 games we saw. It was like 15 attack wins, 16 defense wins. That's pretty close. So I think there's a good chance we'll see it still. Maybe not as top pick as it was this week, but it seemed to work out for the most part in terms of being fairly balanced.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy with it, because I missed Bank. It's been a while since we've seen a good match on Bank, and the first game between SK and Mouse, that was a pretty good game. I was hyped about it, and they definitely both showed up and gave us a good Bank, which hadn't happened in a while. Well, since the Invitational, but previous seasons, just regular seasons, we haven't seen a bunch of it.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be one that was like big in more Latin America, EU, and then it kind of dropped
Yeah.
off for a while.
Oh
but
yeah, definitely.
it seems to be working out. Consulate actually died a little bit in favor this week too, because Consulate was pretty big, more so last week. But it seems like it's just 2 attacker favored as well at the moment. But that really depends on the match, because the match we saw was not the greatest match. Like the only 2-1 that we had the entire week was from the DC versus Vitality one, formerly known as Supremacy. And Supremacy seemed to like Consulate, or Vitality, but both teams really struggled on all 3 of their maps. Like they just seemed to make a lot of mistakes, a lot of goof ups, just not playing that great. So it was like, I mean, yeah, Bibu didn't run into his own thermite breach charge this time, but he dropped an insane amount of kills. He was like hugely up there. He had, what was it, a plus 21 or something like that? It was something crazy. Yeah, plus 21. Like
definitely
he was
pulled
carrying
his
his team hard.
He was. And it's sad to see Vitality not showing up big time like they did at the Invitational. Well, at least as much. They seem a little bit more lost to me, but hopefully it's just an off week.
With the meta. Yeah. They're a team that usually didn't adapt to the current new operators a lot of the time. They used to just pretty much stick to the classic operators. And so they just never struck me as a team that really adapts super fast to using new things. So I can see why they didn't make it, but it was, I mean, there was a lot of mistakes made as well from both teams.
Yeah, it can be just an off week, but with the current way season work, an off week is very unforgivable.
Yeah, hopefully I mean, it's surprising to see so many 2-0s this week, considering this wasn't first seed versus 8th seed kind of things. It was a little bit closer in terms of how matches should have gone.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, not much else to say. I was surprised it was 2-0-2-0 on NA. On EU, it was closer between Vitality and DC, but Ants just getting 2-0 like that, that was rough. That was harsh.
Yeah, that was... I imagine Wilkie's got to be rethinking a lot of stuff, because it's not like the other people on his team were doing too bad. Like, I mean, they weren't doing great either. Like, everyone went negative. But like Boonsy showed up okay, and Uno did his job. Cantos and Panaria, but Wilkie was really kind of unfortunately, the dead weight that time, which is a big problem for that team.
It is, and the next game ENCE is going to play is going to be against Vitality, that didn't really play as well as they could, but they're not a team to they're not an easy team to beat if they get their things together. So it's going to be an interesting match, and the winner of this match, the loser of this match, sorry, is going to be out of the season. So this is a possibility for ENCE to just be out second round, first time not making to LAN. That would be crazy. But it's possible.
And Ranger makes a good point in the chat as well that the seeding is from 6 months ago. That keep that in mind, that the seeding is not but the seeding I think is still somewhat reflective of the teams in terms of like where they seem to be, but obviously the results speak for themselves in terms of where people are right now are pretty different. That's why I do think the losers bracket matches though should be a little closer. We're probably more likely to see 2-1s down there.
Yeah, the Invitational is nice and all, but it messes up the season so much. There needs to be a smoother transition between it.
Well, there will be, obviously, next time. I mean, because there's no more winter break.
No, that's true. That's a great thing. 6-month season is good. I think overall this year is going to be exciting just because of that. Not even because of the game or the team playing, just because of the format that's going to be interesting compared to what we have right now.
Yeah. We also had some somewhat predictable games from Latin America as well this week. I mean, FaZe 2-0ing, was pretty much what you'd expect. FaZe still playing strong. I think they're definitely one of the strongest contenders by far in Latin America right now. I mean, they showed up pretty good at Invitational. Unfortunately, didn't make it all the way.
Even though I thought it would be in finals. If like one team from Brazil would have been in final, I thought it would be FaZe, but I was kind of sad.
I think everyone thought it was going to be FaZe EG at the end, and then Rogue showed up good, and then FaZe got dropped out, and it became North America. One of North America, at least going forward, was nice to see.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll be honest, I hoped it would be a Rogue, but it didn't. But EG played really well, so it was good either way that that they were in it.
It was. I mean, I was convinced it was Brazil's times to shine, but I was kind of sad when they lost. But then again, I mean, NA on finals.
If Brazil couldn't win in their own country, then they're going to really struggle to finally win a LAN at some point at this rate. Yeah. I don't think they're used to the cold.
Oh yeah, that's got to be it. That's got to be it. Even though it was pretty hot, the week at the Invitational, it was hot. It was -5 or something.
Yeah, hot for you, whatever, you Eskimo. But it was funny too because constantly seeing the Brazilians running back and forth past my room in the hotel in swim shorts, running to the pool. Those guys are nuts. Like, I don't know what it is with their weird weather. But yeah, so and then it was interesting too that it was like Liquid versus BRK, because it's like new BRK versus old BRK, essentially, and they proved why they left one behind, unfortunately for one. Not great for BRK.
I haven't had time to rewatch the whole game of the Brazil scene yet, but definitely gonna be looking back on it, because 2 of FaZe and Team Liquid are probably the teams that we're gonna be expecting. Far.
And that's the two big orgs too. FaZe versus Liquid is a good matchup.
And I mean, in 2 weeks they're going to be playing against each other for this the spot in the playoff. So that's going to be a really good game. That's going to be a crazy game.
Outside of the ENCE 1-up thing, I think we're mostly seeing the teams that are the stronger teams that we would expect moving forward. I mean, the DC versus Vitality was obviously pretty close. It was hard to say because DC hadn't really been a team. Technically, it was like, 3/5 of I don't know. But it was still like we weren't really sure how they were going to gel. But Red Groove really showed up. The newer guy that they picked up from Moon Factory, he definitely performed for sure. Like, it was good to see the Swede strength all working together there.
So the Swedes.
Yeah, it worked out good.
I mean, they pretty much stitched a team together. I say last minute, but it might be like maybe a month or a month and a half. And they did well.
I think they'll be even stronger next time off of this.
Well, for sure. They can only improve at this point. The more time they spend together, the more chemistry they get, the better they are. Simple as that.
Speaking of, I don't know, they actually did win their Challenger League match as well,
Yep.
so they're still moving forward despite all the setbacks BP's had. So Challenger League went interesting in terms of how things played out for there, because like in North America, for example, we had the former VG slash most wanted team or whatever win theirs against UF, who are also minor and things like that. So a lot of change-ups in who's the org or the team name constantly, especially in NA. But it wasn't a huge surprise to see them win. But I thought it was really interesting to see NYL has just not been able to reclaim the strength that they once had, just getting stomped by what was technically Maskoff before, now Team Gates. Maskoff is a team that like shows up occasionally in like Go Fours and qualifiers and stuff like that, but never a team that I expect to be super strong. But this season definitely shutting down NYL hard.
Well, the NA Challenger League is there's a really big gap between the top 4 and the bottom 4, and it's only rare occasion that we see the bottom 4 beating top 4, and there's rarely a rotation between these teams unless some new teams are really good, but it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah,
and I think it's fair to say the top 4 teams are gonna make it.
It was interesting to see Tank Ninja's team Overtime, that's now unnamed, I believe, did win their fight though against what was formerly the 1UP team. That had to change their name because you couldn't have 2 1-ups, I guess. And so they finally managed to get that. I mean, I know that team has struggled for a while.
Yeah, well, I can't say I watched this Challenger League side of EU. There's too much going on right now.
There's too much. I honestly have no idea even what's going on with APAC at this point. I need to like.
APAC is even more hard
next
to follow.
Weekend just catching up. Yeah, we need a separate. We'll have the ANZ guys, their podcast. Maybe they'll do a good recap of APAC for us, because
hopefully
we definitely can't keep track of all that stuff. I mean, we have some people at SiegeGG that do a good job of that. Like my whole team's dead and stuff like that. But it's too much to keep track of. It's too unstable as far as the 4 regions as well in terms of teams. But I know APAC is pretty much still dominated, as far as I know, by Mindfreak at the moment, who took what they learned at Invitational and are really playing with that.
Dude, just playing at the Invitational on the stage for them was obviously
for the second time
a big experience that they can totally bank on.
Yeah,
I mean, so far they won 2-0.
They learned a lot from the first Invitational they played as well.
They won 2-0, and I think it's fair to assume they'll win 2-0 again.
Yeah, I expect to see them at the NA finals.
Yeah. I definitely, if one team from APAC I had to guess on, that would be Mindfreak for sure.
Yeah, especially with Eins falling apart, that definitely took that out of the running.
Exactly. That was probably their biggest contender, and now, unless some teams show up big time and just improve in a really short amount of time, because getting the experience Mindfreak got at the Invitational is not going to be an easy team for a team that's only going to play online up until the APAC LAN final anyway.
I hope to see Cryptic doing well again, though. I know they're a team that's been a bit struggling over the last year in terms of trying to get back to kind of their formal glory. So hope to see them succeed, just because they're cool guys from Singapore. Good team.
Definitely. I mean, I think the only thing I'm really watching right now is Mindfreak, just because they have the experience and they showed up at the Invitational more than probably everyone thought it would anyway. And I think from APAC, we can only expect Mindfreak to come up top. This would be probably the biggest upset if they don't make it. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't know if APAC's really going to have it all together as a overall region until maybe next year.
I'm giving them a year before they do really good against NAEU and Brazil. If they do better before that, I mean, good on them. That's only good for the scene, only good for the competition. But I mean, before, I don't see that happening before a year.
Well, at least Mindfreak and Eins both showed up at Invitational, did a good job there.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good inspiration for them to actually try a little more seriously.
And now that the Japanese team can also get their prize pool.
Yeah.
They have a pretty
big fan base there too.
Yeah. There's a lot of people watching Rainbow Six on Japan. I think there was a stream the other day with an impressive amount of viewers. It was only Japanese.
Yeah, hopefully they strengthen as a region in terms of esports for that, because I think they've got potential. Eins definitely had potential, although it kind of fell apart sadly. But it's just a matter of getting these regions to have enough good teams to compete with each other to really boost all of them up in terms of skill to be able to be to the level of playing other regions.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it's just been kind of difficult.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's moving a lot. I mean, it feels exactly like early NA and EU where people were moving around a little bit more. Orgs were picking people up. They're not big orgs, but they're not just shady small orgs either. And a lot of these teams are also just made up org from like 5 people that get together and get a name. There's some
true.
of it that's that, and it's just there are a couple season lagging behind NA. They're having NA and EU and all Brazil. They're having the same situation where roster move. It's not as stable. There's a bit more of a movement between players, between teams, and that's just normal. That's just part of it. At some point, we'll just get more stable and more stable, and they'll work from that and just improve. Just got to give them time.
I mean, we'll see, because it seems like Latin America has gone almost the opposite direction. I felt like they had more kind of strong teams before, and I feel like they've gotten too insular in terms of them practicing against themselves and maybe not getting to scrim other regions as much. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But I know there have been issues scrimming NA, and I feel like that's hurt them in terms of the way they're playing, because you see them playing almost ranked level, like because they know how each other plays, but they don't necessarily seem to play that good anymore. It's
that's like, something about Brazil that I've noticed is they play each other and counter strat hard the team they're playing against. But if they're playing against a team that can just mid game completely switch strat and come up with something good, they'll have like a hard time just figuring this out. They're good at countering, but if they don't know how to counter before the game, they have a hard time adapting mid round. Feel like more than EU and NA anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that are the strong teams like FaZe and Liquid seem to be doing a lot better. Like FaZe seems to be pretty strong all around still. Liquid's picking up a little bit, although to be fair, they were playing against BRK, which was not super strong. So I think when we see Liquid versus FaZe, we'll get a better idea where Liquid's really at.
That's gonna be good. That's gonna be a good game. I'm gonna be looking forward to. That's for sure.
I hope so. But I mean, we'll see, because the other teams seem to be struggling. But yeah, it is a decent team, but they need to like pick it up. They did play against what I think was the strongest team, so I think down in the losers bracket we'll see a little bit more what Yaz potential is like
against BRK.
But, yeah, I think I would favor over BRK. I don't think
so
BRK
too.
is really doing that great. So I think Latin America just kind of needs to get it together and stop playing so ranked. So because not this week, but last week, like first week, it was really bad in terms of some of the matches just were like watching like ranked level play, and I was like, I thought it was like some of the old APAC matches at that point. I was like, what's going on here in terms of the play?
Yeah, that's
I don't know what's going
unfortunate.
on with that. I mean, it's mostly the same players though. They're not bringing a lot of new blood in. They're doing a lot of shuffling around in teams, but it's very NA like in terms of them kind of just shuffling around instead of bringing in new blood. Like a lot of the teams that are newer are just formed from older ones, like Merciless and Pain. So it's not like they're new players. They just kind of reformed. Some of them reformed well, but nonetheless, it's not new blood.
No, exactly. I mean, moving on, the games that we're gonna have this week: EG SSG for NA.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for SSG. They didn't really show up as well as I would have liked last week. So I hope they spent a lot of time like working on what didn't work.
2 weeks ago, they had a pretty rough start. Like it was rough. It was really rough. It was almost just draft. It felt like a draft strat where they didn't really know how to play with each other. It was just uncoordinated and just pushing some stuff that their teammates was not covering, and they lose some like 5v2s just randomly and just like throwing that completely. So hopefully they'll get their like things together and improve on that, because I feel like it was just a rough start, but it's hard to tell. Maybe it's the meta too that they haven't figured completely out yet. Even though they still won, I mean, they didn't play bad. It was just not up to what we expected from SSG.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if they could show up better. It's obviously going to be very difficult to even take a map off of EG. Not impossible, depending on how they are in terms of certain maps, but you're really going to have to bring your best map. Hopefully one that EG's weak on. Otherwise, it's going to be an easy 2-0 for them because they work so hard to like make sure they stay on top. And I mean, at this point, the matchup I'm looking most forward to is EG versus Rogue in terms of NA. But I think I at least like to see SSG show stronger, and that's all I can ask for from them is to show that they've got it together. Because I have high expectations for that team that they just didn't necessarily meet on week 1.
And I mean, the second game between Ronin and now called Soon TM, one of these teams is going to be out. What's your pick?
Soon TM.
Soon TM, all right. I think
I don't know. We'll see.
I think Ronin has been struggling more than I like when they played in Challenger League. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if it's because they changed their players.
Well, it was the last minute changes. Yeah, like that screws you over big time when you're already struggling as a team morale wise, and you lose one of your best players, and you have to swap people around like that. Like, they were already like done before that match started. Like they were already morale wise done. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I think Era have been pretty done. Soon TM have been pretty done for a while, unless they get their act together. But because I mean, I hate to say it this way, but ping is not an advantage anymore. So unfortunately,
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna be looking forward to EG and SSG game a little bit more than the second one. I don't think the second one is a lot of like fakes. In place, but one of these teams is going to be out, and you really don't want to miss the boat for the next season because that's a ticket for 6 months. 6 months Pro League is a ticket you don't want to miss. You want that golden ticket.
I would imagine Ronin at least want to try and do well enough to stay in Challenger League to not get dropped out.
They need to figure things out because it was uncoordinated last week, and not last week, but 2 weeks ago against EG. But
yeah, they're obviously the kind of team that if they don't win this next match, they're just going to disband. Like, there's no way they're going to stick together. It sucks. I don't think so, because I think they just, again, I think morale is an issue for that team. I think they're struggling after that big hit they had on the roster, and then getting kind of, stomped, of course, because it's against EG. What would you expect?
Yeah,
but still, like that's not going to boost your morale when you're not doing great.
That's true.
In the one match you get to play, and now you're down to losers bracket. I mean, against Era, like, I think they have a better chance. I think if they really put their all into it and like get their act together in terms of like the roster synergy and stuff, I would like to see them come out on top and like really be a stronger team and like stick around and stuff like that. But I doubt Era are just going to roll over either. So we'll see. But Era needs to show good if they want to find a good org, right? Because they are orgless now. They've unfortunately been with 2 orgs that have not been the greatest orgs in terms of like reputation and supporting the teams well. So with that, they need to work hard if they want an org that's actually reputable to actually support them well, because they certainly don't necessarily have it right now.
No, was it last year? Last time they played though. Sorry, Snake Nade was playing, right?
Yeah, it was like almost like when you watch Snake's
he did well. Like, he did really well.
Why bring Benji at this point?
But now it's going to be interesting to see Benji playing and see how he's going to do.
Yeah, maybe Benji could swap out for someone else instead, because Snake definitely showed up. Like, because he'd always been kind of like, oh, like I'm just bad now. I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm doing it because I have to. Yeah, it was pretty much his like whole thinking or way of thinking about a game when he came in, but definitely showed up. I was like, oh my god, Snake, good on you.
It was
man.
more like old Snake style play. Like, it was good. I mean, not that he was like the best player on earth back in the day, but it just felt more like how he used to play. And maybe his constant streaming now is helping. He's doing really well with his stream, and I think that's great. Like, I think maybe that's helping his morale as well in terms of play.
Honestly, he probably came in the game saying, you know what, whatever, fuck it, I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah. And I just have to play one match, whatever.
Yeah, and that worked out pretty well because there was probably not much stress on him as much as before anyway.
Yeah, Benji will be a big question mark. I don't know if at this point, like, it's even worth picking up Benji just because he's more of an unknown. in
Yeah,
terms of rather than just keeping with Snake. But that's if Snake wants to stick around. Like that's the big thing is he gonna want to stick around and play to that level, or is he just gonna kind of be like, oh, it was fun, I'm out, enjoy Benji. I mean, Benji's a friend of his, and that's part of why I'm sure Benji's there is because of
probably.
Snake. But
Yeah, well, I mean, if anything in this game, that's what I'm gonna be looking for. Looking how Benji is gonna do in that team. Because I
yeah,
mean, obviously they've been playing together in scrims and stuff for a while, but on stream and in a game that people can actually watch, I don't think it ever happened yet. So it's gonna be definitely something to look for this matchup. And
yeah.
well, either team I think is not gonna be a big surprise if they lose. So
I think there's a good chance that we will see Beast Coast relegate out one of these bottom teams, though.
East
For
Coast, yeah,
next,
yeah,
I mean they won 2-0 just fine, but they won 2-0 without playing line, without
yeah,
playing
exactly.
the overpowered operators, no
Yep.
blitz either. So I have some faith in those guys.
I think Beast Coast have a good chance of getting in Pro League, and obviously it's the season to do it. Well, next season, be done with that Challenger League season. I think it's going to be fairly easy for them to do it because they've been playing well ever since the qualifiers. And Waffle is obviously a big improvement on their roster because he's a very solid anchor who you can rely on. He's not gonna choke a shot. He's got a very good shot, and he's got an easy personality to play with. He's not because I've played with the guy. I've met him like a couple of times IRL. He's an easy guy. It's just fun being around. So I think it's a big improvement on the roster, and they'll do just fine.
I think things started picking up well for them when they picked up Fox. He's not always the strongest player on the team in terms of fragging, but I think that's when they started really kind of looking up, and then picking up Waffles, who you obviously already had a synergy with. I think is good overall for that team. Like just in terms of them being kind of in the right place right now. I mean, Breezy I think was a good player, but obviously they are a little more gelled now, a little more tight than they were before, and then they still got ZZ and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think there's a high expectation that they can take out Era or Rodin or one of these teams that are just really struggling this season.
I think if a team is gonna pick a Pro League spot, I think it's gonna be Beast Coast out of the Challenger League on NA.
Yeah,
it's gonna be Beast
it'll be
Coast.
interesting on EU though, in terms of like, is there a chance we'll see I don't know finally make it back?
I hope so.
We finally get to,
because
I don't think they played that strong. Yeah, they won, but I don't think they were playing that great either. I don't know. I feel like they've kind of lost it over time. Maybe when they lost the Swedes, maybe the Swedes were an important part of that team, but they just don't seem to have the strength they used to, and it's really been a struggle for them. I think for BP to be able to get a team together that is working well enough to show Pro League caliber play right now.
Well, they need to do it. That was the first game they won. They had a rough time getting in Challenger League too. That was surprising. And well, it's nice to see they won. I think they won 2-0 if I'm not mistaken. So good on them. They have a week to practice and just improve on that. Well, 2 weeks really, and hopefully they'll show up big time and be stronger on their next game, because I'd like to see them back in Pro League. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, we'll see. And it depends on whether or not they can, first off, do well enough in Challenger League to be in relegations, and second off, whether or not there's a team they can beat in relegations from the Pro League side, because obviously EU has a lot more teams and a lot more potential good teams in a way.
EU is, even EU Challenger League is surprisingly strong.
Yeah, it always has been though.
Yeah, it always has been, and it's nice to see. It's really, really nice to see it, that much competition, even coming from Challenger League team. And that can just be good for the whole scene in general. And
NACL though, like I feel like
struggling
is
more,
much weaker this time around. There's still a lot of teams that just kind of slipped their way in there because there was 4 spots to take, and I don't know. We got a lot of ones that just kind of stuck in there that aren't bad but aren't great.
It's like I said. I mean, top 4 challenger and bottom 4 challenger. The bottom 4 is always moving. The top 4 is a little bit more stable, but there's a big skill gap between it. Just because of that.
I do think there's a good chance, though, that we might, now that teams are starting to stabilize a bit more and there's going to be more interest from orgs in Challenger League.
Yes.
Because, Pro League's just going to fill up with all the big orgs. And then that leaves the mid-tier orgs the chance to pick up Challenger League teams and kind of invest in a team that they think has potential. Although, unfortunately, it's a riskier time to invest when
Challenger.
you don't necessarily, when Challenger League's only like half the season. Like
yeah, there's going to be 3 month of nothing gap in Challenger League.
Yeah, and then no exposure for your org.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I think hopefully that kind of stuff will incentivize teams to disband less from Challenger League.
Yeah.
And so maybe we see a little more stability there, and then that will improve Challenger League as a whole overall by just having a bit more stability and maybe less people just coming and going. Not that that's worked for NYL.
Because, I mean, if your base of Challenger League player is not good, then you don't get new people or new blood in the Pro League, and you don't challenge the Pro League as much because you're trying to get these spots from Challenger team to Pro League. So you need to work on the Challenger League to make the Pro League better in the long run, for sure.
I mean, I would say most of the time you usually don't pick up people for your team for roster replacements that haven't been in Pro League before. But the one big exception that I think did work out was someone like Uno, who came from Penta Academy. It was like he was from PS4 originally, and like that was a lucky pickup. That was one of those ones where you managed to get someone from outside that's new blood, and they are a good performer. I don't know how well he's gelling with the team because obviously we can't hear the comms, and even if we could, I don't speak Finnish. But I think he's doing a good job, and like opportunities like that are great for if you can perform really well. I do hope that we're going to see. Between R6TMs and the open ladder that's open now, maybe we'll see a chance for some more fresh blood to kind of demonstrate their skill level.
Oh, that's true.
Because, I mean, you'll demonstrate your synergy level, your ability to kind of gel with others and work as a team player in R6TM, but you're going to demonstrate your skill as a team in the open ladder. If people use it, obviously that is something that NA doesn't seem to be too interested in a lot of the time, but like Maskoff, for example, is the kind of team that plays ladder sometimes, and they're doing well now in terms of getting into at least Challenger League. So I hope teams take it a little more seriously, because obviously we're going to have Go4s continue to be Go4 level. It's not going to change anytime soon. So the ladder is the opportunity to really show like strength as a team a lot more often and a lot better. And I hope we see that people take it seriously, because if people start taking it seriously, I'll be willing to cast some just to bring some attention to a team if a team's really showing strong. So we have a few like Armada Black and White are both up top in the ladder right now, doing really well for NA. So it's not like if you're a Challenger League team, that's a great way to get a lot more practice and try and get yourself up to Pro League level quicker.
Well, especially in that 3 months downtime, it's going to be a way to keep not scrimming, because finding scrim is not that hard, but keep playing on a competition level with more at stakes than just a scrim.
Yeah, scrims aren't competitive level. The scrims have different purposes depending on what you're playing it for. It's not the same. You're not going to get the same level of practice. And so people like going off of like scrim results to try and make predictions generally tend to be very inaccurate.
And I kind of forgot about it, but you're right. The open ladder is now open to everyone but APAC, soon TM, I think.
Yeah, I think they're working on that. According to BK, he made some phone calls, metaphorically or physically, whatever, and got that rolling. I think it's hopefully should take only a week or two at most to get them going.
Yeah, well, the structure on APAC is a little bit more complex, because we say
I'm not
APAC,
sure how
but
that's going to work.
like
because
4
are they just going to
sub-region.
open it to all of them?
Yeah, because we say APAC, but APAC is like 4 sub-region. So
yeah,
there's a little fine-tuning that needs to happen there to make it competitive and work for everyone. But I kind of forgot about it. So the open ladder is pretty much going to be the R6TM of teams that want to play as team against other team. Pretty much the same concept, right? You queue, you get a game, and you play.
Hopefully. I mean, it's going to be a slightly different system, but I hope we should utilize it for that purpose of like, because if you're trying to bring up a new team, trying to just wait for every Sunday to play a Go4 is a horrible way to do it. I've seen that just constantly not work out, because you get one shot, every week.
You say play a Go4. I think wait a Go4 would be a better.
Oh yeah, you spend most of your time just staring at the bracket hitting F5.
Like, all right, are they done? Nope. Are they done? Nope. Can you like
Protesting.
reach?
That's what you.
Yeah.
That's what you practice on Sundays.
You
is
practice. You
protests.
practice how to protest and how the system and the
Yeah.
rules work. That's pretty much it.
It's terrible. It's a good way to get people's feet wet in terms of understanding the
For
rules.
sure.
But unfortunately, that sucks because that means there's a lot of teams that don't understand the rules
Mm-hmm.
in there, like really screwing things up and making it hard for the teams that do. So just go for the way they're set up are just unfortunately too open of a bracket. I think a ladder system is a lot more appropriate for an open system as opposed to like a go for where it's just like it might as well be ranked sometimes.
Might as well.
So
might as well. It's just the setup. People get in this and have no clue whatsoever how to properly install MOS, how to run wire. You spend like 15 to 20 minutes, which is not a long time, but after 4 games, 15-20 minutes turns into an hour and a half, and it's just an hour and a half waiting for some teams that has been doing it like properly for the whole tournament, but now they have to wait for some reason.
Yeah, what I want to see in the ladder is I want to see teams from Challenger League playing in the ladder, but not teams from Pro League. Because I think the idea is that as a new team, you want to prove that you have the ability to get into Challenger League, and the best way to prove that, of course, is playing actual matches against Challenger League level teams to really see where you stack up instead of just thinking you have it or don't. You really need to test that.
And they'll have to do it because the 3 months downtime is really where it's going to be hard to stay as a team and stay motivated because you're going to have to play the game, come up with strategy on a meta that you're not going to be playing at all. But you still need to do it because it's a process that's going to lead up to the next season. But that requires a lot of motivation when you don't have anything to play those, anything serious like competition or just a season to play the strategy you come up with on. It's I don't know. It's gonna work. We're probably gonna see a little bit of instability in the teams unless they play in leagues like CCS, and hopefully the open ladder will fill that gap. But
there's also the dream hacks. So
yes,
I hope that helps as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. But hopefully the open ladder people participate in it because it's really reliant on how many people are gonna play in it. Because it's the potential pool of team playing in it is not super high to begin with, or at least to have a good quality team playing in it. So, because I don't think people in Pro League will bother at all. So it's Challenger League and people who play a little bit below Challenger League. So some CCS team and some teams that don't play anything, but yeah, the pool of teams is not super high, so hopefully it's gonna work. And then I'm talking for NA because I'm sure EU will have no problem about it. There's like a bajillion team playing every go for.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Like, I hope a lot of this pressure on Ubi and ESL to do something about that 3-month break will work. I've even talked to Ubi specifically about it in the sense that, like, if nothing's going on, I'll run a freaking tournament for the teams just to give them something to do. And then there's at least CCS and stuff like that as well that will hopefully give them some chance to stay warm and fresh. Obviously not going to be the same as Challenger League, but it will give them something.
It's just staying motivated. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, trying to because you see the disbands that happen during the winter break, which again, the winter break will be gone. No more winter breaks from this point forward, for the foreseeable future at least. So that will help with disbands not happening as bad. But for Challenger League level, yeah, we're gonna have to worry about a lot of disbanding, shuffling going on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope they have plans that they haven't talked about for Challenger League because it just feels like they. Like, I haven't thought about it at all and just are not wanting to improve much on it. Like, it's good to have a pro league that's now going to be interesting to watch, interesting to follow, and for the players also interesting to play. Because the format is going to be way better, but Challenger League just feels forgotten. Like, they don't know what they want to do with it. They have it. They keep supporting it, but there's no improvement on it, and it's just it feels weird because it really is the base of the pyramid to build your whole league and your whole system and everything pretty much. Because if you want to be in Pro League, you need to go through Challenger League. So
they've just spent a lot of time thinking about what to do with the Pro League and doing all that stuff, and I think that's really just distracted them from dealing with the Challenger League. I think it's just in terms of, like, you have to have priorities, and the clear priority is going to be Pro League.
Well, yeah.
Especially now that big orgs involved. Like, that's a lot of money to focus on. But once that starts filling up and attention starts coming on Challenger League, obviously they will pay attention to Challenger League. It's just a question of when that priority shift happens that they actually start taking it serious. There's still a chance they could change their mind and do something different for the next season and not have what we talked about. But as it stands right now, the current plan is that there will only be a 3-month Challenger League, and it'll be during the second half of Pro League. So after this Challenger League, there will be a 3-month gap. But that's just the current plan. Hopefully they change that around, or at least we get something else that will help with that. But I do know that it's a struggle sometimes to sell the importance of Challenger League to ESL and Ubisoft, just in terms of their priorities are very much on Pro League. We talk about it all the time that like this Pro League season's almost forgettable in comparison to the fact of how important next one is, how exciting next one is. But this one's more like okay, we need to not fuck this one up so we can stick around for the next one kind of season.
I mean, that's literally the only thing that's at stake on this season for most teams. Because, I mean, top teams, obviously, they want a prize pool, but it really is just staying in Pro League or trying to make it in Pro League, because that guarantees you playing for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like huge. You wanted to win your first match, right? Because that guaranteed you this spot and staying for next season. Now the question is, of course, you still have to fight for land spot, but land spot's not as important, I would say, as the 6-month season coming up. Because if you're a team and you're depending on your org to pay your salary to live, a 6-month guarantee on your contract is a lot better than just a LAN event prize pool in this sense right now.
In a sense of stability and just being able to do it a little bit more, or maybe even stepping aside from your job a little bit, like just getting, I don't know, work part-time instead of full-time, just to focus a little bit more on the game. Guaranteed 6 months in Pro League is huge. It's way better than the prize pool you can get, even though the prize pool is going to be interesting, because I think the next LAN is going to be like 250k again, probably. I think it's fair to assume that.
If not more. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll go with some kind of like community prize pool thing too in the future, where they like have more people buy into to try and grow that continually. We'll see. I mean, the nice thing about this game is that they're continually trying to improve stuff and trying to make sure that they're working on the strengths. Doesn't always work out, as we see from the current format.
Doesn't always work out. It's a rough path to perfection. Say that.
At least the nice thing is with R6TMs, you can get a good preview of how some of it will work right now, and get an idea of like how it feels to play and watch the attack defense changes and the operator pick bans.
And there's a lot of people who, I mean, I'm talking about the R6TMs format, which is you play 5 rounds on defense and then 5 rounds on offense, and then overtime is just switch every round, so offense, defense, offense, defense. And I gotta say, this is way more enjoyable than the current way of playing games, which is offense, defense, offense, defense.
Anyone who is skeptical of it should try playing it first,
it is
watching
really
it, because it's nice.
It's nice, it feels good, and like I said earlier this week, I think it's going to be easier for new players just to understand, because when you keep switching roles, you get your structured defense setup on defense, and you're like, okay, so we did that, something went wrong, but then you switch to offense and you kind of forget the general feel of how and what went wrong. But now it's just, if you mess up your defense setup, you can redo it instantly and just improve on what you did wrong and just right away try it out. And I think for new players, it's going to be better and more intuitive to learn the game, and the learning curve is going to be a little bit less steep than it is right now.
It'll make it a lot easier for me as an analyst as well to be able to remember stuff better, because like if an operator changeup happens, between 2 rounds, it's a lot easier to remember that if it's the previous round than 2 rounds ago. It's a lot easier to keep track of which bomb sites they've played and see how they rotate them. And I think it's more interesting to talk about the change-ups when you can directly see them as a spectator versus me having to try and recap what was 2 rounds ago.
And the only sad thing is it's not going to be, or at least there's no announcement about it, but I don't think it's going to be in rank the way the rounds are playing right now. But I think for the new player, it would be much more easier to
maybe 2019 after they try it out for the 6 months. Maybe they'll look at rolling that out for the next year. Maybe.
Probably.
I mean, we'll see. Obviously, they can do a lot of changes during the seasons and stuff like that.
I mean, it's pretty much just a number to switch, right? So
Yeah. What I'm interested in too, and I'm not sure if this was ever clarified, is how you decide whether to start attack or defense. So, for example, right now, the way that's decided is whoever picked the map, the other team gets to pick starting side. But now that it's best of one, no team is picking the map. And therefore, how do you decide? Is it just coin flip? I don't know. I mean, in traditional sports, a lot of times it's coin flips. So the big question is it going to be a coin flip or not? Because with it being first to 6 right now, that in a sense, I mean, it's best of 10, but a lot of times it's first to 6.
Yeah.
Ends up in a situation where pretty much if you are really good at one side versus the other and you can win all 5 or most of your 5, you have to win very few of the other side. So let's say you're playing a map that's heavily attack sided and you get attack first. It's not like the current system where that can go back and forth and trade. And yeah, you have a mathematical 1-round advantage. No, you have a mathematical 5-round advantage now.
Yeah, so well, if you win that much on defense, and it's because the bomb side is easy, well, the other team should do as well. They should be good on defense as well and just win 5 rounds. I don't think it matters. I mean, obviously it's in people's head and they just get discouraged.
But like we see in the, like we were talking about the stats earlier, certain places, certain bomb sites, certain maps tend to be a lot more attacker sided, like we were talking about Coastline earlier. So on Coastline, for example, in the current meta, getting attack first would be a huge advantage because it's not like you're guaranteed to play out all 10 rounds to decide who's the winner. If you make it to 6 first, if you win all 5 and then win 1 round of defense by being somehow the slightly better defending team, that's it. You win. Like
you're the slightly better team anyway, so you should win. You'll win on the other format anyway. I just think people get discouraged because of it, but it's just a number. There's no momentum, there's no economy, there's no nothing in Rainbow Six. When you start a round, it's a clean, fresh round where anything can happen. You just need to figure your things out as a team and just improve on that. But there's no like system like CSGO where you can get a momentum with economy and you just like crush the enemy's economy and now they can't buy anything and you have rifles and they're stuck with the Glock and they have no armor. So obviously you should win this round. But in Rainbow Six, there's no such thing.
Attack and defense are a bit different in CSGO. I don't think there's as much asymmetry in CSGO. It's mostly just like, I mean, yeah, they have some different weapons. Yeah, they play slightly different, and they have a different goal in a sense. But Bomb in Siege is I think, a little more favoritizing one side versus the other sometimes.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not saying it's going to completely debalance the game. I'm just saying like how we decide who starts what side is going to be important.
Yeah, well, I still think there's no momentum in Rainbow Six other than psychological one, and you need to be able to control that. If it's psychological, you need to be able to just clear that out and focus on the round that you're playing right now and not think about, oh, we lost the last 5 rounds, we're shit. No, just, they were on defense. Now you're on defense. You can do it too if they did it.
I guess I'm anticipating a lot of complaints and people blaming starting sides for the reason they won or lost.
People tend to blame things that are not themselves a lot.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, I mean, we can see how it plays out in R6TMs and stuff like that. But
so far,
I'm definitely excited to see how it plays out.
From my experience, it's really, really fun. Really, really fun.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely the better way to go, and I think it'll be a big plus for the game. The operator pick bans, though, will definitely be interesting in terms of...
Yes, I mean, we've seen some bits here and there at the Invitational, but not an actual game being played with it, right?
Especially with the 6th pick thing, right? So the thing is, like, we talk about the pick bans all the time, but we rarely talk about the fact that teams are now going to see what the other team picks in terms of their 5 operators. That's a big deal because normally defenders are at a little bit of disadvantage in some sense in that, because drones are going to identify the other defending operators, whereas the defenders can't identify the attackers until prep phase is over, and even then only if they catch them on cameras and stuff like that. So the fact that it's going to be revealed without necessarily having to do the intel work outside of the 6th pick thing, so you're going to know potentially 4 out of 5. I say potentially because you don't know who the 6th pick is. You don't know who changes it up.
You can keep your operator or switch it. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, I think that's going to be a big psychological mind game to it. It's going to be, for example, trap operators are going to be a big possibility for 6th pick, right? Because that's like, you want to keep those a little bit more secret, but at the same time, drones still could catch those out. Whereas for attacking operators, it'll be interesting just because like now you have the whole hard breacher thing, right? In terms of determining looking at the defensive setup, do I bring a hard breacher? Like you see Castle picked, and you're like, oh, maybe I should bring some more soft breachers. Things like that I think are going to become part of the prep phase, like that whole mind game that goes back and forth. And it's going to make, I think, operator picks a little more interesting, especially with 5 rounds in a row of the same side. There's going to be a lot more to talk about and pay attention to in terms of operator picks because of that. And then throw the bans in on top of that, and like suddenly people can't play Mira or Smoke or something.
That's making the pre-game a whole lot more interesting because now you have like the map banning phase. Then depending on the map, people are gonna ban operators, and it's just gonna be fun to see, fun to interact with. Because, you know, on some maps, it might be vital to just ban Mira, but on some other maps, Mira is good, yes, but she's not OP, and your team have a good strategy to deal with it, so you're not going to ban her, but instead, you're going to ban Hibana, and the other team is going to ban Thermite, so it's going to be a frag fest. I think it's going to be interesting just for the viewer to get some different meta on the same season, which is going to be longer, and I think it's going to be important for some teams to go back and watch Pro League from maybe not season 1 and season 2 of year 1, but from season 3 moving up, because the first 2 seasons were really just fragfest all over.
Yeah, I would like to see them introduce some other kind of breacher, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, we have good soft breachers. Like, we have a good variety of those. I'm not worried about soft breachers. Hard breachers, I don't know if we necessarily need another hard breacher. I mean, at first it didn't seem like we did, but then Hibana definitely shined in terms of hatches, and the way they differentiated that actually worked out pretty well for the most part. But maybe we need something in terms of attackers that, like, say, could open a hole in a floor, like a destructible floor that you could actually drop through. So they don't necessarily need a hatch. Like, they can create a hatch, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, 1 or 2 or something. I don't know what it is. I mean, that's Ubisoft's job to determine that. But I do think if we start seeing a lot of I mean, obviously they can watch, too, and see, like, oh, are we seeing hard destructors, like, banned a lot? But maybe we need to introduce something new that's not a hard destructor, but that is a breacher.
I don't think people will ban hard breacher. Like,
I don't think
2 of them. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think it's going to be like, okay, we're on bank.
It applies to both teams, just to be clear to everyone
exactly.
who doesn't understand that.
And I think it's going to be like, okay, we're playing bank. The hatch are very important, so let's ban Hibana. Yeah. But then again, you say, okay, maybe I don't want to ban Hibana. Maybe I want to ban something else. But if I ban something else, I gotta rely on the other team banning Hibana, and if they don't ban Hibana, well, everyone has Hibana. So there's a lot of mind games going on with that ban phase, and it's gonna be interesting to see what teams are prepared for this ban phase, and see if they can anticipate what the enemy team is gonna do.
Well, it'll help teams like look at each other's strengths, and so let's say one team has like a really good Ying player, like 1UP, for example, and the other team doesn't really care about playing Ying, they're going to ban Ying. So that Hungary is like, oh crap, I need another good main. So stuff like that, where there's really strong players of a certain kind, like if I'm playing against Redeemer, I'm going to ban Echo. Stuff like that, where you just are counter banning to the other team having a particularly strong operator that they're really good at, or Glaz or Blitz in Latin America against certain teams. So I think that will probably play out maybe a little bit more in terms of teams playing to their strengths and against the other team's strengths, maybe more so than not just the map itself, but also really disabling some of the really top things that team can do against you.
And also something in the ban phase that I think people often forget is on defense, yes, you can go for banning Mira, but there's a lot of operators that are, I'm just going to say Smoke. Smoke is really good because he can do everything. He's got a good gun for mid-range, short, and even long range with the SMG-11. He's got a shotgun for close range, but more than that, he's got a shotgun for destructibility and just making rotational holes and angles and opening stuff. And if you ban Smoke, and let's say the other team ban Miras, well, you need an alternative to who you're going to use, who has a good shotgun enough to open walls and do your general setup. So this is something that I think we'll see too. Banning utility operators more than just straight up OP operators.
Yeah. Well, anyways, again, that's all coming next season. So
yeah,
we gotta wait a little bit to see how that goes. But
I can't wait.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's a good amount of talk for today. Make sure to tune in to BR6 as well. That'll be on tonight.
Yes.
To see some Latin America play. I think that should be fun. It's a good way because it's the pro level teams. So, you actually get some good preview of what might be going on the following Wednesday.
Yeah, it's mostly the same teams as Pro League, right?
Yeah.
It's just a Brazilian only Pro League, yeah, right?
I'm trying to get a clean feed to be able to cast it with Fox A, but getting a clean feed from them has been a bit of a struggle at the moment. So sadly, it's still not going to be an English stream tonight. Still working on it though. Hopefully, be able to get that going before that season ends. But but definitely check that out. Even if you just watch it in Portuguese, it's good to see what these teams are doing and get some ideas for how the meta could be shifting, as it's still fairly fresh right now.
Yes, right there with you. The more game we have access to, the better. So
the harder my job gets, but the more fun it is.
I mean, you need to figure it out.
I need to figure it out. Speaking of which, I also am trying to revamp Breaching Siege, so that it's not because it seemed like kind of a dead site. So I decided to kind of revamp it a little bit. I put all the current teams up, so they're at the top of the page. All the previous matches are up there with the results, and the VODs linked in them as well. The next 2 weeks of matches are also scheduled on there, and I will update the results as those go through. I'm not sure what else I'm going to do. I'm going to try and probably do some analysis stuff on the site that will probably also cross-post over to SiegeGG. So trying not to overlap with what SiegeGG is doing, just rather be complementary sister sites. So hopefully that will be good. Obviously, if you have some good ideas what you think I should be doing with that, as well as additional feedback for SiegeGG, make sure we know what you guys think, so that it's stuff you guys want to check out. As well as the podcast, if you guys have feedback for what you'd like to see us talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, we need feedback, because obviously we want to make sure this is something you guys want to tune into. Right now, we're just kind of going with the default of talking about the previous week's matches. But if that's boring to you guys and you already watched them and don't care, then let us know what you'd like to see. We are trying to get some guests. We were trying to get Esley today, but unfortunately he wasn't able to confirm in time. So we will definitely try and bring in some guests in the future here to make it a little bit a variety in terms of what we talk about. And if you have guests that you'd like to suggest, feel free to do so as well. And leave us feedback, preferably on the Reddit, so it can be more of a discussion. Or if you are more Twitter savvy, go for that as well.
I mean, there's still the feed on not the feed, but on Discord. I think there's some ways we can get some feedback from there too. Absolutely. So whichever is easy for you, we'll just try to reach for these feedback wherever they are. Just make sure they're available and easily accessible, so we can actually read it.
Yeah, and if you're checking this out on YouTube afterwards, keep in mind this is streamed live as well. So if you'd like to come in the future and ask questions and stuff like that, we do read the chat and try and interact a bit, as I've mentioned a few times. So come in, participate. I think it's great to have you guys here. I know we have a smaller audience for the live stream. Could be due to time, could be due to whatever, maybe lack of interest. I don't know at this point, but let us know, and then come check it out. Check it out live once, and if you like it, stick around. And we'll try and make sure this is worth your guys' time every weekend.
Yes, and I think we're doing a good job at interacting a little bit more with chat this time, because previously it was a little bit harder, but slowly we're trying to figure it out, being more comfortable around everything that's going on.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks Helbee, of course, for being co-host as always. And thanks everyone for tuning in and participating in the chat. It's been awesome, and we've had a good time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Catch you guys next Sunday.